The Celtics have won their 18th championship over a Game 5 win against the Dallas Mavericks. Very, very successful season, obviously, for both the Mavericks and the Boston Celtics. I kind of want to talk a little bit about the finals, but then I also want to give a recap of basically the entire NBA playoffs. Like I said earlier in the podcast last week, I did not get to post that because I lost that episode, and hopefully I still have this episode by the time it's all done. But on the last episode, I talked about my prediction for the NBA Finals and who I thought was actually going to get to the finals. I did pick Boston. I picked them in 7 games. I really liked how the Mavericks were playing, not just Luka, but guys like PJ Washington and Kyrie Irving. I was very confident that they would be able to step up and play very, very well in the NBA Finals. I did think that particularly Jason Tatum was going to really take over. Him and Jaylen Brown, I thought were going to absolutely dominate in this series. One, because those two guys, particularly Jaylen Brown, can play defense. Jason Tatum can play defense, but Jaylen Brown is very, very exceptional at playing defense. And he also has the luxury of he doesn't have to be the number one guy taking 25, 30 shots on offense. He has Jason Tatum. That could be Jason Tatum's role. And in this series, I didn't think it would go this way, but in this series, Jason Tatum has been very, 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 very good at passing the ball to his teammates, driving and dishing, finding open guys. He has done a terrific job of that, or he did a terrific job of that. And that was a very, very large reason why they were able to win. But I did not foresee Kyrie Irving and Luka to on offense. I mean, not as much Luka. Luka had a lot of inefficient games. Um, and more so with Kyrie, where Kyrie in a couple of games we'll go into it, but he just had like less than 50% shooting, less than 40% shooting, and you just can't have that when you're the number two option in the NBA Finals. And that wasn't because Kyrie Irving is just all of a sudden a bad basketball player. That's because the Celtics have very good defensive guys. Like I said, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, very good defensively. But guess who they also have? Drew Holiday. Guess who they also have? Derek White. Guess who they also had? Kristaps Porzingis, who's 7'3". I mean, defensively, the Celtics are probably, including the Timberwolves, the best defensive team in the NBA, and that's a very good recipe to have. And they also have the benefit of having guys who can give you 40 points. Jaylen Brown could give you 40. Jason Tatum could give you 40. Drew Holiday a couple years ago, potentially. Derek White at his absolute best, potentially. Kristaps Porzingis at his absolute peak, yes. They have guys who can score on offense. Obviously, their 3-point shooting was amazing throughout the entire playoffs, but it was especially good in the NBA Finals as well. But let's get into the article. The Boston Celtics stand alone among NBA champions. Jason Tatum had 31 points, 11 assists, and 8 rebounds as the Celtics topped the Dallas Mavericks 106-88 on Monday to win the franchise's 18th championship, breaking a tie with the Lakers for the most in league history. Boston earned its latest title on the 16th anniversary of hosting its last Larry O'Brien Trophy in 2008. It marks the 13th championship won this century by one of the city's big four professional sports franchises. Jaylen Brown added 21 points and was voted the NBA Finals MVP. Drew Holiday finished with 15 points and 11 rebounds. Center Kristaps Porzingis also provided an emotional lift, returning from a 2-game absence because of a dislocated tendon in his left ankle to chip in 5 points in 17 minutes. It helped the Celtics cap a postseason that saw them go 16-3 and finish with an 80-21 overall record. That's .792 winning percentage, ranks second in team history behind only the Celtics 1985 and 86 championship team that finished 82-12. Very cool. Second-year coach Joe Mazzulla at age 35 also became the youngest coach since Bill Russell in 1969 to lead a team to a championship. Luka Doncic finished with 28 points and 12 rebounds for Dallas, which failed to extend the series after avoiding a sweep with a 38-point win in Game 4. The Mavericks had been 3-0 in their Game 5s this postseason, with Doncic scoring at least 31 points in each of them. Kyrie Irving finished with just 15 points on 5 of 16 shooting and has now lost 13 of the last 14 meetings against the Celtics team he left in the summer of 2019 to join the Brooklyn Nets. NBA teams are now 0-157 in postseason series after falling into a 3-0 deficit. Boston never trailed and led by as many as 26, feeding off the energy of the Garden crowd. Dallas was within 16-15 early before the Celtics closed the first quarter on a 12-3 run that included 8 combined points by Tatum and Brown. Celtics did it again in the second quarter when the Mavericks trimmed what had been a 15-point deficit to 9. Boston ended the period with a 19-7 spurt that was capped off by a half-court buzzer beater by Peyton Pritchard, his second such shot of the series. He had one in the game previously. No. I think it was game 2. He hit a half-court shot. Or maybe it was the previous game. I'm not sure. Over the last 2 minutes of the first and second quarters, the Celtics outscored the Mavs 22-4. The Celtics never looked back. Russell's widow, Janine Russell, and his daughter, Karen Russell, were in TD Gardens to salute the newest generation of Celtics championship. Very, very cool. They watched current Celtic stars Tatum and Brown earn their first rings. It was the trade that sent 2008 champions Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce in 2013 that netted Boston the draft picks it eventually used to select Brown and Tatum third overall in back-to-back drafts in 2016 and 2017. I mean, crazy. And one of the things about Jaylen Brown that I had known previously, but I didn't think about it all that frequently until this offseason, or not this offseason, but this postseason. Jaylen Brown is a very, very smart individual. And basketball, much like a lot of sports, is something that if you want to be at the top of your game, you have to be very knowledgeable about that sport. And when you have somebody who's, I don't know if Jaylen Brown is a genius, but he's certainly very smart. He doesn't teach classes at Harvard, but he's given lectures. He's talked about real subjects, and he's very knowledgeable on a multitude of different varieties. He also went to a very nice college, Cal. I think he went to Cal Berkeley. So he is very well educated and he's very smart. And that helps a lot when you're a basketball player, right? LeBron James is, even though he didn't go to Duke or he didn't go to Harvard or Yale or wherever, he is still an extremely smart individual and an extremely smart basketball player. I mean, I can't recommend it enough. His TV show with JJ, or not TV show, but his podcast with JJJ Redick, I think is amazing. I love the information that they break down. They talk about plays, these terminologies that I don't know. I know when I see it on the court that that's something, but I don't know what to call it. I don't know why they're doing it. I don't know what the strategic advantage of doing it against a particular defense is or at a particular time in the game. Like, I don't know the intricacies of that. And to see those two guys go back and forth to talk about it is amazing. It's so insightful. All right. Let's continue. The All-Stars came into their own this season, leading a Celtics team that had built around taking and making a high number of three-pointers and a defense that rated as the league's best during the regular season. The duo made it to at least the Eastern Conference Finals as teammates 4 previous times. Their fifth deep playoff run together proved to be the charm. After both struggling at times offensively in the series, Tatum and Brown hit a groove in Game 5, combining for 31 points and 11 assists in the first half. Yeah, they were very, very good. Very, very good. Now let's talk about kind of the playoffs. Do a brief. I'm not going to go into the stats of every single one of these games, game by game, but a couple of things that I just thought were important. Obviously, we talked about the Celtics Mavs. This one, I guess we'll take a look right here. So you see points, rebounds, and assists. Playoff leaders, Luka was basically 640, 210, and 180 of each. Crazy numbers. But you kind of can see here the field goal percentage of Jason Tatum was very poor in this series. 39% basically. Per game, 22, basically 8 and 7 with a steal and almost a block a game, whereas Jaylen Brown had 1.6 steals and 0.8 blocks per game. Basically 21 points a game, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. He was very good for them. The thing about him was he was very consistent. I mean, you see that he shot 44% from the field and under 24% from 3. Tatum shot 26%, so not much better, but he just seemed a lot more consistent. Jrue Holiday had some games where he played absolutely phenomenal. There's some games where he was a real difference maker, but I would say Jaylen Brown has been very consistent throughout the series. I mean, I wouldn't have been mad. I wouldn't have really cared if they gave it to Jason Tatum. They both kind of deserved it, but that was a very good closeout performance by Jason Tatum. And I mean, you can look here. This was the difference. %47 from the field for Luka Doncic. 23 turnovers as well is a lot. 23 turnovers is a lot. Yeah. Tatum and Brown had 30 themselves. So a lot of turnovers by Luka. 47% from the field, 24% from 3, 59% free throw shooting, just really bad. 29, 8.8, 5.6, 2.6 steals, 0 blocks. I mean, 2.6 steals is a good number, but you could, by watching the series, you can tell that it's so hard for you to be the number one guy scoring 146 points on offense. I mean, he took 125 shots. Let's look at the Celtics. Yeah, Jason Tatum took the most amount of shots. He took 98. 125 shots for Luka Doncic is a lot. A lot. He was driving to the basket. He was running in transition. He was playing basically almost 40 minutes a night. It's hard for you to be that number one guy and put in this amount of performance because, like I said, he's doing a lot more on offense than Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I'm not saying that he is better on offense, which I do agree, but my point is that he is carrying a lot more offensive load. He's asked to be the primary ball handler, the primary scorer, the primary distributor. He has a large role on offense, but then we can kind of see the remainder right here. Kyrie Irving shooting 41%, basically 28% from 3. I mean, your two guys cannot have that poor of a shooting performance in the finals. And then PJ Washington, also 27% from 3. Basically 40%, 41% shooting overall. Daniel Gafford was fine in the series. He averaged 8 points though. You have 1, 2, 3 people for the Mavericks who averaged over 10 points a game, whereas you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys on the Celtics who averaged over 5 points a game. Kristaps Porzingis, 12.3. Derek White, 13.8. Drew Holiday, 14.4. Jaylen Brown, 20.8. Jason Tatum, 22.2. And then you got, for the Mavericks, 29.2, Luka. Kyrie, 19.8. And PJ Washington, 10.8. The next closest is Daniel Gafford with 8 points a game. I mean, you see guys who were good with them all throughout the previous rounds. You got Derrick Jones Jr. shot 25% from three in the NBA Finals, 43% from the field, playing 23 minutes a game as well. He was their fourth guy in terms of total minutes. I mean, he was one of their starters. 6.6 points is not going to get it done. And that's just the real difference right there. It's tough to see. It's tough that they went down like that. I mean, you see a true shooting percentage for Kyrie Irving of 48%. Very, very bad. You see that usage rating for Luka Doncic, 38.7. What was it for the Celtics? Let's see. 29.7 for Jason Tatum and 27.4. So that's a big difference right there. You need to have guys on the Mavericks that are able to provide offensive points. They need guys that can shoot efficiently, and it's hard to do that when you're facing a defense that's this good. But let's kind of go through the rest of the playoffs. Celtics over the Pacers. This, unfortunately, was not a competitive series. Injuries. That's a lot of what happened on the Eastern side of the bracket, unfortunately. Pacers, unfortunately, were close to winning a game, close to winning a couple of games. But ultimately, they weren't able to do it. Game 1, they played well. Game 3, they played well. Game 4, they played well. Unfortunate. Mavericks over Minnesota. Minnesota was the hot team at the moment. And so were the Mavericks, but the Timberwolves were looking like they were going to be the best defense in the playoffs. Now, they ultimately weren't, but they still were second best and a very, very close second. But Luka Doncic was absolutely amazing in this series. He really exploited Rudy Gobert on the perimeter. Obviously, you have that game winner that he hit over him. And Anthony Edwards played okay in this series, but he showed that he's not a superstar yet. And unfortunately, that's kind of the growing pains of being in the NBA. Is there somebody like Luka who's a couple years older than you who just decides to do it all? And it was good that this was a 5-game series, but when you have the Celtics who played a lot less games, like let's just go through and let's look at how many games the Mavericks are playing. So they're playing 5, then they're playing 6, so that's 11. Then they're playing 6 again, so 17 games. And then let's look at the Celtics Heat. 5 games, 10 games, 4 games, 14. Those extra couple of games makes a very large difference because especially later on, going from a 6-game series, the Mavs against the Oklahoma City Thunder, and those were battles. The Oklahoma City Thunder were the number 1 seed. I wasn't so confident that the Mavericks would be able to beat them. I mean, the Thunder were looking amazing. And especially the Mavericks in that second round coming off a tough 6-game series against the Clippers. I mean, they had no easy road. And the Celtics, Miami Heat, Jimmy Butler injured. Then you also have at the same time the Pacers. They beat the Milwaukee Bucks because Damian Lillard and Giannis both got injured in that series, and Indiana took complete control over it. They were an amazing team. I would have not told you playoffs begin that they make it to the Eastern Conference finals. So props to them. They were amazing. Um, then you have in that second round the Knicks and the Pacers. The Knicks, after their first round 6-game win over the 76ers, obviously Joel Embiid had some injury issues, but if he was healthy, I don't know if that team beats the Knicks. The Knicks have one of the main storylines that I really started to understand this offseason. It is so important for teams to have good chemistry and guys that get along with each other, guys that like to hang out with each other, like to be with each other, and guys that have really good chemistry. Josh Hart, Dante DiVincenzo, and Jalen Brunson, on their own, they're good quality players. Jalen Brunson, if I were to give him a 2K rating, is probably like an 89, 90 overall. Josh Hart and DiVincenzo are like 80s. Like they're not three superstars. They're not Kyrie, Kevin Durant, and James Harden. Remember, those three guys were on the same team at one point. And now James Harden is on a team with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Having superstars is good. To have three of the best top 10, top 15 players is a good thing to have. But what's more important is to have guys like the Oklahoma City Thunder, where guys are just perfect for their roles. Guys who can step up and hit big shots, guys who can step up and get a defensive stop when you need to. And the thing about the Knicks that was unique to them is that DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, and Jalen Brunson played heavy, heavy minutes. And they were always in the game, and they were a constant. They always were going to be playing you on defense. They always are going to be on offense. And when you have somebody like Jalen Brunson who just attacks over and over again, drives to the rim, hitting step backs on you, ISOing you, and then taking you through 2-3 screens at a time. Like he's aggressive on the offensive side of the ball. They played phenomenal. And Tyrese Maxey for the 76ers played amazing as well in that first round series. But unfortunately, Joel Embiid was not 100%. And that's how the cookie crumbles. Then in the next round, you have the Pacers over the Knicks, and Knicks shouldn't have been in that situation. They shouldn't have gotten to 7 games. I mean, we could take a look. It was a little disappointing, right? I was disappointed in how these games ended. I mean, you see game 5, Jalen Brunson, 44 points. Going into game 6, I'm thinking, all right, it's over. They don't have to play an extra game. They're done. Boom. In this game, fantastic, or so we thought. I mean, you look at the scoring by quarter. Knicks, after their first quarter, what happened? 21 points in the second quarter to 32 by the Pacers. You can't have that in the playoffs. That's what lost them the game. You get off to a bad second quarter. You don't shoot the ball well, and then you're behind. You look at Jalen Brunson shooting 42%, basically 38% from 3. Very, very unfortunate. He only had 1 turnover, right? It's just hard to win when your stars are shooting that poorly. I mean, Dante DiVincenzo was okay. I mean, 6 for 14 isn't nothing to be too mad about. I mean, 14 shots, you're hitting 6 of them. It's not that much of a volume. We'd like it to be 8 of 12 or something like that. Like that would be nice, but it is their stars and their starters had some less than ideal shooting times. I mean, 11 of 26, that's very hard. When you're taking 26 shots and you're hitting only 11, It's very hard to do that. Very hard to do that. And this is what cost them the series right here. I saw them lose this game and I thought to myself, I don't like how that happened. I don't like how that ended. And then they come into here and they just get blown out. Just absolutely nothing throughout the entire game. 39-27, 31-28, 31-29, 29-25. That was the game. Like they just got absolutely dominated. Look at the shooting percentages. 53% Pascal Siakam, 80% Andrew Nemhard, 64% Miles Turner, 59% Tyrese Halliburton, 100% Aaron Nesmith. Then you have the Knicks, 52% Dante DiVincenzo, 33% Josh Hart, Isaiah Hartenstein played 29 minutes, 0 of 2. 0 of 2. And then you got 35% Jalen Brunson in 29 minutes. OG Anunoby, 100%, 5 points, 1 3, 1 2-pointer. Just not good. And then you have Miles McBride, played 40 minutes, shot 29%, 4 of 14. These are just performances that you just can't have at a closeout game. And it was just, after that first quarter, you knew it was over. The Knicks just kind of fell off, man. Fell off so hard. And yes, there was an injury, obviously, to Jalen Brunson. But even before that, game 6, they should have won that. They won the previous game by 30. The series felt like it was over. Overall, kind of going back to my main message of having good team chemistry and having guys who really fit into their roles is a lot more important to team success than having just really all-star level guys, really good quality players, and just throwing them together. The Phoenix Suns are a perfect example of this. You have Kevin Durant. Outside of LeBron, Kevin Durant and Larry Bird that's the end of the discussion. End of discussion. You have the Phoenix Suns getting swept by a extremely super young and inexperienced Minnesota Timberwolves. No real playoff success. They had a couple of wins and advanced, but they're not storied team. I mean, Anthony Edwards, their number 1 guy, is very young. Meanwhile, on the Suns, you have Bradley Beal. Not a lot of playoff success, but former scoring champion. One of the best shooting guards in the NBA. Then you have Devin Booker. Has gone to an NBA Finals before. I don't think people remember this. Went to the NBA Finals. Made the NBA Finals a couple years ago against the Bucks. In 2021. And since then, been in Western Conference Finals after Western Conference Finals. Fantastic player, Devin Booker. He's very good. Then you have Kevin Durant. I mean, these are 3 guys who can get you a bucket anytime that you need. Scoring should not be an issue. Yet, you find out when you put together a roster like that and guys are injured throughout the season, they're older. Kevin Durant's a little older, so his body's a little bit more brittle. You have guys who are injury prone through no fault of their own. And it keeps them out of the lineup. And then come playoff time, these guys haven't played together like the Minnesota Timberwolves had. And you see the real discrepancies right there. That by far is my number one takeaway is teams that have guys that fill roles to the best of their abilities. Sometimes all you need is a guy to shoot 3 of 5 with 2 or 3 3-pointers to win you games. to win you games. You need guys that can score 6 to 8 points in one quarter on 3 or 4 shots. Like guys who can be super efficient, hit shots when you need them to, hit big 3-pointers late in games. And you also need guys that can play real defense. I'm not saying you need guys that can play two ways, which you like, but it's important to have guys that if your number one guy like Luka isn't there, or your guy Kyrie isn't there, that maybe, okay, I'm not going to be scoring 30 points tonight. Maybe I score 16 to 20, and the guy that I'm guarding scores 10. Maybe that's my contribution in this game. Maybe I try and distribute a little bit more, dribble around, get some movement on the court, and then make the right pass. And then on defense, I play lockdown defense. I play super hard. I expend a lot of my energy on defense. Fortunately, that not every team can do that, and that didn't happen. But moving on, this will be our last thing. A new Adrian Wojnarowski, this is 2 hours ago, a new tweet. ESPN sources. JJJ Redick has agreed on a 4-year contract to become the next coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. Rob Pelinka offered a job this morning, and Redick started working on a staff to surround himself with experience. Very interesting. Very interesting. I was just talking about him earlier, talking about his podcast with LeBron James. I don't know what I feel about this. Let's continue on. Pelinka became sold on Redick's ability to connect with players and his basketball IQ, and believes surrounding him with an elite coaching staff will help to shorten the learning curve into his first coaching job, sources said. He has yet to coach in the NBA. But by all means, he seems to me, at least of what I've seen him talk about, to be a very smart player. Just did color commentary in the NBA Finals. I thought he did a good job. Him and Doris Burke. Yeah, here we go. Pelinka's first conversation with Redick came at the Chicago Draft Combine in mid-May, but Pelinka had a much longer visit with Dan Hurley there, and that sat him exclusively on the path of pursuing the UConn head coach. Rob Pelinka long held an intrigue in Redick, and those talks became more substantive again post-Hurley. What happened? Chicago Bulls are trading 2-time all-defensive guard Alex Caruso to the Oklahoma City Thunder for guard Josh Giddey. Wow. A defensive guy. The trade delivers the Thunder one of the league's most coveted role players, a 30-year-old guard whose GM Sam Presti had long pursued for the Western Conference's #1 seed. Caruso's arrival could be seen as an additional comparable to the Golden State Warriors' acquisition of Andre Iguodala in 2013. Both were 30 years old. Wow. Very interesting. Caruso is entering the final year of his deal and becomes eligible for a 4-year, approximately $80 million extension, exactly 6 months from the date of this trade. Thunder made the trade with the hope to have Caruso as an integral player for the long term. Wow. I didn't know that was going to happen. Nice. Here is the story. Let's read it. The Los Angeles Lakers have agreed to a 4-year contract with JJ Redick to make him the franchise's next coach. Redick, an ESPN NBA analyst who played 15 years in the league, met with Lakers vice president and general manager Rob Pelinka and owner Jeannie Buss over the weekend. And conversations on the vacancy continued throughout the week, sources said. Pelinka offered Redick the job Thursday morning. Pelinka became sold on Redick's ability to connect with players and his basketball IQ, and believes surrounding Redick with an elite coaching staff will help shorten his learning curves into his first coaching job. Redick moved into the forefront of the search a week ago. Okay. Yeah. Lakers offered Hurley a 6-year, $70 million contract. He turned it down early last week. As Pelinka saw with Hurley, he still wants a teaching coach and staff who will prioritize the development of young players such as Max Christie, Austin Reeves, and Rui Hachimura, and can design a creative approach to featuring Anthony Davis on both ends of the floor, sources said. Redick has a strong relationship with Lakers star LeBron James, with whom he co-hosts a basketball podcast. No experience required. Look at this. JJ Redick has never coached at the NBA level as a head coach or as an assistant. Other notable former players to achieve the feat include Redick's former coach, Doc Rivers, who is the only such coach to win a title with the Celtics. So you got JJ Redick with the Lakers, obviously. Jason Kidd with the Nets in 2013-2014. Mark Jackson with the Warriors in 2011-2012. Doc Rivers with the Magic in 1990 to 2000. And then Larry Bird with the Pacers 97-98.